Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where we chat with founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And I'm excited to be here with Arnell. Arnell, what is happening?
Hey, Duncan. What's up? Thanks for tuning in to this latest episode of the Firebelly Social Show. We have a great show lined up for you today, talking with Eric. This episode is brought to you today by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-driven food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
You guys, one of the reasons I'm so excited about today and our guest, Eric Hoang from YATÉ Yerba is because he's not only courageous like most of our founders, he's not only a badass, but the man is hip as hell. So with no further ado, Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Duncan. Thanks, Arnell. I don't know about hip. I think that's a bit of an overstatement, but my fiance in fashion might say otherwise. But no, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Indeed, it is Friday. I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to be on the show. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the brand and how you got started. How did this all come about?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to caveat, bear with me. There's a bit of a story here, and I'll be as succinct as possible. But, the TLDR is me and my co-founders and I, we all have, there's three of us, Galen, Mike, myself, and we've all been working in CPG pretty much for our entire careers and in different stints and uses. Where it all sort of came about was actually in Shanghai. So we're all Americans working abroad in Shanghai. We were there on expat assignments. Mike was working at AB InBev, was the Ventures. Galen was a consultant with the Economist Group, and AB InBev was his client. And then I actually was working for a nutrition company. I was working at Herbalife. We were all sharing in the same building in Shanghai. And so it was very serendipitous in nature. But the expat community is really small in Shanghai. So we met actually through partying. We were going out, going to techno nightclubs, raving all night. And we kind of realized like we needed something to keep us awake, right? And so particularly in Asia, there's even more limited options. But if you just look at nightclubs, bars in general around the world, you're kind of limited to one option, and it's been Red Bull. And we didn't want to drink Red Bull anymore. So that was that kind of was what set us on our course. Like, why is that the case? Why is that the only option? And so at the time, I was actually working on my first beverage brand. It was a hard seltzer brand in Asia. It was the first hard seltzer in China. And this was just around the time when White Claw, Truly were doing really well. And so I thought there might be something there. But really what started to get more unsolicited feedback and what started to be really interesting was this Yerba Mate project. So fast forward a little bit, we worked on the hard seltzer project together. COVID was ultimately too much for us to handle. So it was a big disruption to the business. We had to wind up the business, and then we all relocated back to the US. Then we thought, like, why don't we try doing YATÉ here when we're back home? So there's a couple of things that kind of like light bulbs that happened for us. Number one is that sort of that learning in the on-premise. It was really only Red Bull. There were two actually other things that were really interesting. Number two is that there's this cultural niche of life already exists. So depending on what type of music you like, we're huge fans of dance music and techno and electronic music. In Berlin, where there's this massive nightlife scene, right? People are already drinking Yerba Mate in nightclubs. There's a local brand there called Club Mate. You can look it up. And people are dancing all night drinking Yerba Mate. And we thought that was just so cool. And my co-founder Mike at ZX, they always told him, like, try to commercialize a cultural niche. And so we realized, like, let's bring this to the US. So that was light bulb number two. Light bulb number three is, as you all may know, is there's an incumbent brand called Guayaki. They were founded 25 years ago in Northern California. And they've pretty much been a 25-year overnight success, but they're the incumbent only player to really exist in this market. They own about 80+% share of the market. And, I think there's time for a number two to kind of, step up and do something different. So I think that was a very long-winded answer, but that's kind of tells you a little bit more about the inception.
It's super cool that music is at the core of the experience and also you guys were living abroad. You talk about the cultural niche. That's all just super cool. I think you or one of your colleagues described YATÉ as a modern music-inspired interpretation of yerba mate for social occasions. So that's where it's come from. And based on what you're saying, it's a really unique approach for a CPG brand to go on premise first. I mean,
Yes.
tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of taking a page out of Liquid Death's playbook, but honestly, it goes back to light bulb number one, right? Like, if you there's just a gap, there's a white space in on-prem for healthier alternatives to energy. You know, I don't know where everybody is or the listeners in their age group, but you're starting to see espresso martinis become more popular. That's because you don't want to be seen drinking a vodka Red Bull anymore, right?
It's true. I mean, you just busted Arnell because most recently when we were hanging out, she was drinking espresso martinis.
Yeah, I mean, me too, right? Like it tastes great, right? It tastes great, but you know, it's because you don't want Red Bull anymore. And sorry, Red Bull, you know, no offense, but I think it's just there's just so limited options in the on-prem. So I think that was one that was we felt that there was a white space for that. Number two is just the cool thing about yerba mate, at least ours, especially being sparkling, it kind of drinks like a beer. It's got a nice foamy head. So it kind of it inadvertently lives in this non-alc space too, right? So you're seeing athletic brewing, you're seeing all these brands, Gia, Kin and stuff. And so in on-prem, we get to live in multiple places on the menu, which is really fun. We get to be any alternative, we get to be a soft drink, or we actually get to be a mixer, right? So it pairs well with a lot of spirits. We tend to promote it with agave-based spirits, so mezcal, tequila. And it also just works well as like a boiler maker. So like, you know, a lot of bars will do a shot and a beer for happy hour. So we'll promote like a shot and a YATÉ. So just get it over with and chase it with your YATÉ. So I think that's what's really fun about it. And then I think building that relationship with the trade and on-prem is something that we can do right now as founders, right? I think scaling up really fast in retail kind of scares us. And so we want to have this proof of concept in on-prem first before going to these bigger chain retailers.
Yeah, it's super cool, right? I mean, I have never been a Red Bull guy. It's a little speedy for me, and I'm curious to see what Arnell thinks about that. But I just am not. I love a sparkling beverage, especially one that's good for me.
Yeah, I think the idea of clean energy and clean caffeine is definitely something that has a lot of people's attention. And so for people who are new to yerba mate, what is the big difference between that and, you know, the Red Bull? You already mentioned that it was a little bit healthier for you, but what is the primary reason why you would want to drink that instead?
Yeah, I can get really nerdy right now, so I'll try to spare but it is, you know, and this is amazing, like plant-based caffeine alternative, or rather energy alternative. It is actually very caffeinated. So you may have seen popular drinks like matcha recently and other green teas. So similar in nature, it's got high content of theophylline, a lot of the things you get in tea, but it actually has a really comparably high caffeine dosage, right? Or the amount of caffeine in yerba mate is actually really high, almost comparable to coffee. But it's different because if you actually map the caffeine on a curve that you get from coffee or yerba mate, it's a very gradual, like kind of almost tapers, right? There's like an arc. Whereas like a coffee, you kind of spike and drop, right? So you get the crash. For some people, you even get the jitters, right? So it's a very like sustained energy release, which is really nice because like you just feel like you're kind of floating. You're not, again, you don't have like a lot of the ill effects that you might get from other caffeine products. So I think that's a big reason for its differentiation. And then it's just very like multifunctional. Like it's just got like, it's easy to consume. Granted, like if you don't like tea, you're not going to like it. It is a very tea forward taste. It's very earthy. But yeah, it's multifunctional. You can, like I said, you can use it in a lot of different applications. And then this one is a little bit more subjective, but it has something in it called theobromine, which is what you find in chocolate. And so, you know, often some people cite like some feelings of euphoria when they eat chocolate. So that together with the yerba mate kind of, you know, people kind of colloquial call it like liquid Adderall. So you kind of get like locked in like this tunnel vision with your energy. And I think that's really cool too. So you're starting to, and yerba mate is getting a lot of extra publicity lately because, you know, historically it's been consumed in South America for like centuries. But people like Leo Messi, Luis Suarez are very open about their yerba mate consumption. So you can Google like Leo Messi yerba mate and there's hundreds of pictures of him drinking it. And so when they recently won the World Cup, there's a lot of publicity around that because they actually shipped like thousands of pounds or something to the World Cup so that they can consume it every day.
That's
That's
amazing.
awesome. I can see how that could be helpful on the dance floor too. And
Exactly.
having a great time, a great party.
I mean,
Go ahead, Duncan.
I might be able to sell it to my son, who typically doesn't drink drinks like that, and just say Messi likes it. So
Yeah, no, that's we're not, and then maybe going back to your original question, Duncan, is like we're very much in like the social music world. Like that's how we want to associate our brand. Like sports is not where we want to live or play. Now we don't want to ignore that. We know it exists, or consumers who live. That's why Celsius is as big as they are. But Celsius owns that space, right? Like Nocco and all these fitness energy drinks own that space. We feel no one really has owned music yet, right? Own nightlife, own social occasions, right? Historically, I used to work in sports nutrition, and like energy has always been so function driven. Drink this to go do a workout. Drink this to go to work. Have your 5-hour energy so you can do your 9 to 5, right? Like that's fine. But like I don't really see energy brands promote in the way that spirit or alcohol brands do, which is really just go out and live life and have fun.
I love that. I remember back in the day taking wine training, and the asking the trainer, like, what do I do when someone says to me, what kind of wine is this? Cab Sauvignon Blanc, or what is this Shiraz? What kind of a wine is it? And the answer was, the secret answer was, say, it's a lifestyle wine.
Right.
And they say to you, like, well, what do you mean by that? And it's like, well, whatever your lifestyle, you just fit it into your lifestyle, right? And so I love that. I love the idea of, a sparkling drink that's going to give me a bit of energy when I'm hanging out. Whether it's when I'm dancing or DJing or whatever I'm doing, it's like I'm hanging out. And talk a little bit about the origin story of Yerba Mate. Like those South Americans must have had something right with it.
Yeah, so it's it's actually not a departure from its how we position the brand. Like you said, we were created for social occasions. That's not a departure from its original use case and its consumption culturally, right? Like I actually plan to go to Argentina and go find this out for myself. But it's like historically, people in South America, whether there's Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, wherever, they would consume yerba mate in circles. They would drink it out of a little gourd, right? They'd brew it, and they'd actually share this gourd together in a circle, like passing a joint, basically, right? So they just share this, and like it'd just be like this really social thing that they do together. And I think that's so cool because what we want to do is very similar, right? Now, there's probably some hygiene things. People don't want to share their drinks anymore, but the concept of it is very much in line, right? Like we want to create the social environment, this social feeling, and promote like kind of people going out and spending time together. And so you need energy to do that. That's kind of why people were consuming alcohol, right? It kind of loosens you up, makes you feel like you could socialize a little bit more. But I think, there's also an option for something that doesn't necessarily have to be alcoholic too.
100%. Yes. So you guys also have a really strong social media presence with lots of followers. How do you engage with your audience through platforms like Instagram? What role does customer feedback play in shaping the brand?
Yeah, I mean, you're being very nice. But I actually think we actually think social is like our weakest area between the three of us. So that's an area we'd love to get more help on, and we're always learning. But social is really important for us. Customer feedback is really important because we are doing something that's kind of out of the box, if you will, or unconventional. And so it's really important that we like communicate and get to really know our early adopters, right? Like these are the people we need to really we need to build this community around them. And that's what we're doing. We're not really going after the masses, right? We're going after Duncan and Arnell. We were just joking before this recording. It was just like, the niche Brooklyn crowd, right? Like, these are the people who want discovery. They want to be the first to find something. They want to be new and trendy and hip. And so we got to make sure that we're being relevant to them, but also being authentic. And so I think having that open line of communication is really important, and social allows us to do that.
That's really cool. I love that. Back in the day when you talked about influencers or cultural influencers, it was like, the 8 people that bought the record first, and so there was this whole strategy around, who are the people that are influencing the big shots, or the big people, right? And it was always like grassroots level, like super niched. And you're right, those are the people that sort of like early adopters in a culturally visionary way. They're seeing something and they actually love to own the idea of being the founder of that idea.
I found this. Yeah, like this is like, we started to interject there too. It's like, when we're doing our whole brand, mapping out our brand, everything, like our bullseye customer, we were joking, is the person who's like a music snob, right? Because the music snob is always like, well, I found this first. Like, this genre is cool.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter what genre it is. It could be underground ska, it literally, like, the person that found that underground ska is very precious of that. And so these are the kind of the people that we're trying to communicate to.
I mean, it's interesting though, because my wife Angela and I, we actually have this whole conversation about who is the founder. It's like, cigarettes after sex, I'm the founder. Or whatever, this amazing mezcal, I'm the founder. So I think, but it comes with kind of like a sense of like authority and purpose, because you know it before everyone else. Arnel, maybe you're like that in yoga, or astrology. It's like, hey, this is something that I know about, that I'm going to tell you about. And man, there's no better form of advocacy than that.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a question there, by the way.
Yeah, we're just.
I have one for you.
Oh, go ahead, Arna.
So collaborations and partnerships, I know that can be a really powerful way for brand exposure. Have you guys had any notable collaborations or brand partnerships? And how has that kind of played a role in your guys' growth?
Yeah, so it's really interesting, because YATÉ is like kind of the intersection of, like I said earlier, like my co-founders, our professional backgrounds in CPG, but actually our personal interests, like we are just music junkies, my DJ's on the side. Galen is a heavy metal drummer, and I've been raving since probably you guys don't even want to know. Okay, so and it's really cool, because actually in college I was with some of my best friends. We were working on this music blog, and we were just covering a lot of dance music, and so I've always stayed sort of in the loop there. But through that, I've been fortunate to have some really good friends or relationships within the music industry, and so what we realized very early on, like we wanted to focus in terms of like trying to win over, was actually DJs and bartenders, right? Going back to our on-premise strategy. So we wanted to win over the bartenders because they're going to help advocate and promote the product in on-premise. We also wanted to win over the DJ because we want their fans, right? And so we started seeding to some of these DJs. So some notable ones within the dance music space, I don't know if you guys are familiar, is maybe like like the Desert Hearts crew, and like Justin Martin and Dirty Bird, and some other ones that I'm sort of drawing a blank right now. But like these are the people we work with on a regular basis. We see them recreationally as fans. We still admire them. Like sometimes we have to pinch ourselves that we're even talking to these people, And so that's like, it's really fun for us in that way. But it's also very in line with our brand strategy.
And are you able, just to follow up on Arnel's question, are you able to sort of, is someone in your team like digging into who these people are on social and following them and like talking to them on social?
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of do it, but I think I kind of take the lead on that one. A lot of the PR and talking to the DJs and the brands. I mean, honestly, like I was joking with my fiance, we were going over our budget. I spend most of my disposable income on concerts and shows. So, I'm just there. Like I literally just live there. So, I should pay rent at some of these venues. But so, yeah, I really don't mind. And that's like kind of how I spend most of my recreational time anyways.
That's super cool. And for our listeners, just because the guy likes to hang out, don't take him lightly. He's a 2-time beverage founder, and he's been involved with strategy and M&A. And Eric, I'm wondering, you said you spend a lot of your disposable income on going to concerts. What about like, the taking care of yourself, being a founder, and, hashtag founder life is brutal. Like, how are you taking care of yourself?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think people like to paint this picture that everything's all dandy and roses and everything. It's hard. I mean, I've been, always been pretty fit, and like I made a point to do that. I played sports growing up, but also just I worked in the nutrition space as well. And so that was a great benefit, getting, healthy products and supplements. But I think it's really to your point though, like how do you fit that into everything that's going on? You got to just prioritize it, right? There's, the screen time at night, right? Like put it away, go to bed earlier. And I'm guilty of not always not holding myself accountable to that, but like making sure you carve out the time to go do the workout, or not cut corners on meals and stuff. But I think that's, you guys are covering the CPG brands. It's really hard to enter CPG as a new brand if you're not healthy, right? Like if you're not a healthy product, what are you doing? So it's kind of in what we do, right? Like we are providing a healthier alternative to energy, to caffeine, typical caffeine options. So it's in what we do, and it's also something that's very important to me.
Well, then, what about what's coming up next for you guys? Anything that's on the horizon that you want to share?
Yeah. So again, we are taking things very slowly and methodically, but we're very excited that we are, to complement our on-premise strategy, we are making an off-prem push. Like we know the end goal to scale, you need off-prem, right? On-premise is more brand building. But we're excited that we're launching into some natural authorization. So we just launched into Lassen's, with the regional natural chain here in California. We're actually about to launch into Southern California BevMo's and GoPuff as well, which is really exciting. We think GoPuff is a really good channel for us, just given kind of our occasion, like bring the party home, or keep the party going. And so I think that could work really well with where we position ourselves. And then beyond that, I think it's just like, keep an eye out for some of the music partnerships that we are working on. So can't say too much on that front yet, but we're really excited about that.
Super cool. What about like people that are wanting to get started in beverage? As a veteran now, well, what do you
think? A masochist, for doing it twice. Because it's a grind. I think I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is fucking hard. Beverages traditionally lower margin than other products, right? I came from the vitamin supplement space. We're doing 70, sometimes more in gross margins. Beverage, you aim for 40, 50, but that's not how you are when you start, right? So, COGS are high, logistics costs are high. So when you don't have extra margin, it's hard, you don't have much to reinvest in the business or really just survive. So I would say it's a fucking grind, right? But it's not all bad, because the upside is great, right? Like, people who want to do beverage are swinging for the fences, right? That's the phrase I often use. And so you really want that grand slam. And so if you are a dreamer, don't let this discourage you. But, I think there's ways you can be really smart and methodical about it. Like test, learn, and, don't go wide too fast, go deeper. Meaning, a lot of times I see companies like national distribution year one, like, okay, that gives me some question marks, right? Like, do you have the capital to support that? Do you have the inventory to support that? So maybe just test in a market, your local market, right? Focus in a neighborhood, a geography, and like build a foothold there, and then really build a proof of concept, and then scale that. So I think there's smart ways to go about that. So I hope this is not too discouraging, but I also don't want to sugarcoat how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
think we hear that from a lot of founders.
and I don't think it's discouraging. I think it's keeping it real, right? You're probably saving someone from, rushing into something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Test it, do it out of your home kitchen. We get a lot of advice from the guys at Lunar, especially Kevin, and, they started making their formula, in their kitchen, I think. And so, I think just like starting small, testing and learning, that's the same really for any startup, but especially true for something so capital intensive like beverage.
Totally. Well, for people who are listening into the show, where can people find you? Where can they order?
Yeah, so we have Shopify, we're on Amazon. We're really in terms of like our offline presence, it's mostly in LA and New York. So New York, we sort of built this cool like nightlife presence for ourselves. We're some of these institutions like Public Records, Silo. So you definitely check us out there. And then in terms of like LA, where we're having kind of put more of our emphasis on building out distribution is, like I said, Lassen's, which is a natural retailer, and we're about to launch into SoCal BevMo's and GoPuff. And then just, like your indie off-prem and liquor stores. So Hopefully you'll see more offline distribution, but for those of you not in either of those areas, don't be discouraged. You can find us on Amazon and Shopify too.
Super cool. Love all the ideas about, these are kind of like contrary ideas in a way. And I find great inspiration that you're doing things the way you're doing them.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just have to sit and wait too. I think that's another thing. I think having been through it before, or, I think a lot of founders get into this, like, they have to act on things. They have to do that. There's like this timeline, especially when you raise money too, right? Like there's this target on your back for you to perform. And I think there's a lot of value in just like waiting and watching and just seeing how things unfold. I've been listening a lot to Charlie Bunger's stuff, especially in his recent passing. And the guy lived till, a very long time, right? And he and his buddy, Warren Buffett, I think have a lot to teach us, but I think a lot of what they preach is patience, right? And durability. So I think just taking things slow is something that I think all of us can do a better job of, or at least be mindful of.
Totally great advice. Awesome. Well, this episode is brought to you today by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
Eric, thank you so much for coming on. And I guess more importantly than that is thank you for doing this with your friends and in a way that is inspiring. I think as leaders, you don't get thanked enough. So, please accept, Arnell and I's sincere thanks and pass it on to your founders. Like, God damn it, thank you for doing this, because it's going to make a lot of people's lives better. And, ultimately, what better thanks? You got to look at the bottom line, but what social level, what better thanks than that? It's like, please keep doing it.
No, I appreciate that a lot. I think, like I said, this is honestly, we pinch ourselves. Like we're having so much fun doing this. So it doesn't feel like work a lot of the times. Not to say it's not hard, but yeah, thank you. And I want to acknowledge you guys too. Thanks for doing this. It's an amazing community. Thanks for giving, people like ourselves a platform. And so we really appreciate that. And thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Arnell. And to everyone listening, don't forget to go check it out and order some. And, we hear feedback from you all, and we want you to keep doing that and, help support our guests. So this has been another episode of the Firebelly Social Show. I'm your co-host, Duncan. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the flip side.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.